if you have any technical difficulties or questions, please let her know in the chat box. And I will ask that you save all questions until the end of this presentation, as we will be doing a Q&A at that point and taking your questions in the chat. We will be recording this presentation and we will email it to you once it is completed. So don't feel like you have to take screenshots of every slide or anything like that. And if you do have any questions, I would just recommend you write them down and then get back to us during the Q&A portion. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, in this tutorial, you'll be provided with information about this grant, eligibility, funding and restrictions, and the categories you may apply in, as well as scoring, how to apply, the timeline, and where you can find answers should you have any questions. Additional information can be found at sanantonio.gov/artgrants. And throughout this presentation, I'll have a few QR codes linked so that you can scan your screen. Our grants are aimed to support a diverse portfolio of artists working across the city of San Antonio in the production of new, original, and high-quality art. These grants have the specific intent of expanding the artist's professional development through the creation of new works, which must be publicly displayed or performed in Bexar County during the contract period. All funding is predicated upon meeting eligibility requirements and the availability of funds. On the Artist Grants page, you will find the Request for Applications link, where you can find more details on this grant program and a link to gosmart.org where you can apply. And if you scan the QR code up here in the right-hand corner, it will take you to this page. First, let's go over eligibility, funding, and restrictions. The eligible applicants for this grant are those who are at least 18 years of age, residents of the city of San Antonio, or those who operate their artistic business or studio within the city limits. Applicants will be required to show proof of address that correlates with whichever address they list as their studio or home address. They must be professional artists. So by our definition in our RFA, that means professional artists have at least 3 years of relevant work experience or have received specialized training in their artistic field, such as a degree or a certification. They demonstrate a clear investment of time and resources into the creation of new works. And they have a professional portfolio that includes published or publicly displayed works and are registered in the online San Antonio Artist Registry. I will touch on how to register for that profile in a few slides from now. Now for funding. Based on community feedback, we have implemented 2 tiers for our artist grants this year. You must decide which tier to apply for, as you can only apply for 1 tier. The requirements are the same, but you can only apply for one and not both. Individual artists can apply for both tiers, but collectives can only apply for the $15,000 tier. So tier 1 is going to be the $7,500 tier. That is for individual artists. Tier 2 is the $15,000 tier. That is for individual artists and or artist collectives and ensembles presenting a larger production. Prior artist grantees must have their project completed and their final report approved before the FY25 Intent to Apply deadline of February 16th, 2024, in order to be eligible to apply for FY25. So if you currently have funding with us, you do have to have your project completed and your final report submitted and approved before February 16th to apply for this grant. Artist collectives and ensembles presenting a larger production are only eligible to apply for the $15,000 tier. You will be prompted to specify whether or not you are applying on behalf of a collective or ensemble in your application, not the intent to apply. And for collectives or ensembles, the application will be submitted by a designated lead on behalf of the group of artists. We will also require a secondary designee's contact information, so please make sure you have that on hand from your secondary collective member when applying. For FY25, the Department of Arts and Culture plans to award 30 artist grants. So that's 25 grants at the $7,500 tier and 5 grants at the $15,000 tier. Awards are determined by availability of funding, applications received, and applicant scores. Funding under this program will either be $7,500 or $15,000 per artist. The pay schedule will be 80% given at contract execution and 20% given at project completion. Payments go out at the end of October 2024 if all required paperwork has been submitted. So that is dependent on if you give us everything we need to get you paid out by end of October, starting at end of October 2024. Any funds needed above the awarded amount is the responsibility of the artists, and artists may not solicit additional funding from the city for their project. The number of grants to be awarded will be dependent on the amount of funding available. And funding is contingent upon hotel tax revenues and appropriation of funding by City Council. Project grants for artists will be administered on an annual basis. Only one application is allowed per artist or per group. Our open call is held annually in the spring of each year. And your project period here, you have 18 months to premiere your project in San Antonio during the project period, which runs from October 1st through March 31st, 2026. As I stated earlier, you can premiere your project within Bexar County city limits this year instead of just San Antonio city limits. Only one contract is allowed per the contract period, and your contract must close out by April 30th, 2026. So you'll notice that the contract period is 1 month longer than the project period. That is for the additional month we give for closeout. Only one contract is allowed per the contract period. A new contract will not be awarded while an artist is still working to complete their project from a previous grant cycle or contract. Failure to complete the project may result in an artist being deemed ineligible to apply for future grant funding, and the city reserves the right to suspend, defer, or cancel all or part of the funding process at any time. Applicants who receive a grant must comply with the funding program's requirements and all contractual obligations. These are some of the restrictions we get most commonly asked about. For a full list of those restrictions, visit our RFA. I have the link here at the bottom of the page. Department of Arts and Culture funding cannot be used to support workshops and educational programs held on a school campus that are provided by the school, or student work completed for academic credit or as part of an academically supported project, program, or residency. Grants will be awarded in categories. Applicants will be required to select the category that best describes their proposed project. So these are our categories. We have literary arts, which is the creation of written works such as books, magazines, manuscripts, and online forms of literature. Media arts, which is defined as film, cinema, audio, broadcast, new media, creative code, and related formats. Visual arts, which is 2D and 3D works of any medium, including photography, but not videography. So videography would fall under media arts. Performing arts, which is dance, theater, music, and other performances. And multidisciplinary, which is any project that includes one or more of these disciplines. So for example, if you are a musician and you are going to use part of the funds to record an album, but your ultimate project is going to be you performing that album on stage, that would fall under performing arts because that is how you are going to be debuting your project live in front of an audience. If you are a musician and you want to use the funds to film a music video for a song, that would fall under media arts. because it is videography. If you are, let's say, a photographer who wants to hold an exhibition that involves also screening a short film that you made, maybe you also started making a painting, something like that would be multidisciplinary because that is combining all of these disciplines. If you are a comedian and you are performing, some stand-up routine or something like that, that would fall under performing arts because you are live in front of an audience. And if you have any questions about these categories, they are in our request for applications, and you can always ask us if you have any questions about which category your project should fall in. We can advise you, but ultimately it is up to you to choose the correct category for your project. And just think of it as the category is referring to your project, the project you are proposing for funding. So it is not referring to you specifically as an artist. This grant is a great way for those artists who are starting out in their career to maybe branch out and try something new. So if you are, a painter, but you really want to do a sculpture project, that is totally okay. You just have to select the correct category for your project. Applications will be competitively scored by the panel following our established review process. So you must score a minimum of 75 to be considered. Scores will be based upon the following criteria. That is experience, which is up to 35 points, which is the artist portfolio submitted in the San Antonio Artist Registry, and that will be evaluated. I will touch on how to create that artist registry in a few minutes. The merit of proposed project is up to 45 points. That is the description of your project, implementation, public display and performance, and the project's impact to San Antonio as an art city, as well as in the field of art as a whole. Lastly, we have capability, which is up to 20 points. Can you actually put on this project? So this is discussing your project timeline, budget, and marketing plan. There are up to 15 additional equity impact points for artists who fall within certain categories seen here. And those are communities of color, women, non-binary, LGBTQIA+, veterans or those on active duty, persons living with a disability, and those living or who have their studio in census tracts that have been historically disadvantaged as shown on the Equity Atlas. No matter how many categories that you fit into here, a maximum of 15 total points will be awarded for the equity impact points. So we are capping it at 15 just to make it equitable for everyone who is applying. Review and scoring. Staff will determine initial eligibility of the grant applicant. Eligible applicants will then have their applications scored by an independent panel review process. The designated panels for each category will review all assigned applications. Department of Arts and Culture staff will develop staff funding recommendations based on eligibility, evaluation of the panel review scores, available funding, and category. I do want to note that our panelists are required to declare any conflict of interest with applicants for funding. Awarded grantees will receive a notification of funding via email. So this is how you will find out about your application and the funding status. That will be via email. Now we will go over the steps on how to apply. This is a 3-step process. Step 1 is the artist registry. Step 2 is the intent to apply. And step 3 is the application. Part of this process includes creating your profile in the artist registry and providing the link in your intent to apply. So this is step 1. Important note that this step does require a system approval, which can take up to 3 business days to complete before you receive your artist profile link. We do have a tutorial on how to create your artist profile on our sanantonio.gov/artgrants website. We have had a few people historically create their artist profile, and then the second they get a link, they copy and paste it into their intent to apply, and it hasn't been reviewed and published by our team yet. So it ends up sending us a link to nowhere, unfortunately. So please just make sure that you are aware of this 3 business day period that it does take for us to review the links and publish them and make sure everything is good with that. I do recommend that you either have your artist profile ready before you begin the intent to apply, or if you're making it for the first time, I would start on your intent to apply, save it, and come back when you know that your artist registry link is properly published. And you will be notified of this via email as well. The minimum criteria for what we are looking for on an artist registry profile includes name, primary image, your bio, and a resume or CV upload. We encourage you to add more detail to your profile, as I will go over in the following section. However, this is just the bare minimum of what we are looking for to approve your intent to apply. We will not approve your intent to apply until your artist registry meets this minimum criteria. And I cannot state enough the importance of a strong artist registry profile, as it does contribute largely to the scoring of your application. So here's how to create your account. When you log in on the Get Creative SA website, you will see your dashboard here. If you look on the upper hand right corner here, where I have create an account, you'll see a register button with a person and a plus sign. If you do not already have an account, you will just click register. When you log into your account, you will see your dashboard. If you see the blue left-hand side menu here for the navigation options, to create your artist profile, you will click artist, where my cursor is here. I want to stress that you should not be creating an organizational or business listing, as this will not be an acceptable profile for your intent to apply. And it has this note right here. So please, please, please make sure to click on the artist category and not the organization, event, or business category when creating this profile. You'll click on Profile, as circled in red here, under the Artist section of the blue navigation menu. This is the first page of your artist profile registration. You will fill out basic information such as your name, contact info, including website and social media if you choose, images of yourself performing or artwork, category of artist, bio, and your portfolio or samples of work. A link to this registry is always available on our website. And I do want to share that if you, for some reason, are not comfortable disclosing all of your contact information, you do not have to make this public, as we have these checkboxes here if you do not want this information to appear on your artist profile page. When you scroll down, you will get to the images section and you will see the option to upload a primary image and gallery images. A primary image would be a photo of you, such as a professional headshot, or if you are not comfortable posting an image of yourself on the artist registry, this would just be a photo of your work that you feel best represents you and your practice, as this will be the first thing people see when they search your name on the artist registry. So you want to make sure that it's a good representation of your artistic practice. The gallery images would include samples of your work or photos from events or perhaps gallery exhibitions. If you do not check all of these boxes shown here, your artist profile will not be published. Even if you do not want to show your face, it is imperative to include at least one image of your work on your profile that you consent to be public. The more images you have, the easier it is for the panelists to view your work and professional portfolio. Even if you do have a website listed that has your information and images on it, you should be putting that information onto this artist registry profile. Please remember that you are being evaluated and scored based on this registry page, so make it as detailed as you can and really make it count. And for the upload of the images, we do have a 5 megabyte size limit per image, and we do request that those images are in JPEG or PNG format. The samples of work will be in a PDF format. And there is no limit to however many images you want to upload. We usually suggest for the gallery images around 5 to 10 images per artist. Step 2 is the intent to apply. All applicants are required to register and create an account on sanantonio.gosmart.org prior to accessing the grant application. If you have previously received funding through us and have a profile on GoSmart already, we recommend you review and update it as needed prior to beginning your application. Before submitting your actual application, you will need to submit an intent to apply by the deadline, and the deadline as of right now is February 16th, 2024. The department will review your intent to apply, and if complete, you will receive an email informing you when you may move on to step 3. You will receive this email from noreply@gosmart.org. So please make sure this email is not blocked or it doesn't go to your spam. I would recommend adding this email address in your contacts to make sure you don't miss an email. Now we move on to the online application system, sanantonio.gosmart.org. Near the bottom right at all times, you'll see this Help Center icon in this red circle here. You can click on it if it's after hours and we are unable to answer your question, as this is always available for you and will provide helpful tips about navigating the application. If you have never applied for funding through this system, you will need to create a profile. You will click on the blue link that reads Create New Account above this Login button here. If you do have a current existing account, you will just click the Login button. From here, you will enter in all your information and create your profile. Note that even if you are applying on behalf of your artistic collective, your profile needs to be for an individual and not an organization, because that will not be acceptable for this grant application. So make sure you are an individual. Once you're in GoSmart, you'll click on the Grant Applications and Forms tab circled here at the top of the page. You will then scroll down to the Artist Grants FY25 section and click on the blue button that says Start Intent to Apply. Mine circled here is yellow because I have previously tested the application, but yours will be blue, such as the one below it. This will take you to the Intent to Apply. There are multiple ways to respond to the questions in the Intent to Apply. For example, the first question is artist name, and it's a text box where you enter your information. Most text boxes will show the number of characters allowed per text box. The question on age has 2 checkboxes for you to choose from. Proof of residence is going to be a file upload. You will be required to upload either your ID, a copy of your lease or utility bill, etc., which has your name on it and address. Please do make sure the entirety of your proof of address is visible, as we need this document to contain your name, your address, and the logo or name of the entity that is issuing. So if it is, for example, a SAWS bill, we do need to see that SAWS logo on the proof of address, so please do not crop it. Here you will enter your city council district, professional experience, website, gender, and ethnicities you identify with. So at the bottom here is where we're going to derive the information regarding the equity impact points. In this section, you will disclose if you identify as LGBTQIA+, if you are living with a disability. If you are a veteran, you will upload the DD-214, and some questions about your previous disciplinary action and contract fulfillment. Next, you'll be asked to name your proposed project and choose the category of the type of project you are planning, so the categories I referred to previously, as well as making sure you can complete it within the allotted grant timeline. Lastly, here's where you will link to your artist registry profile. And once again, remember it takes 3 business days to get a link to populate, so please allot yourself enough time and plan ahead if you do not have that profile ready and you are waiting on it to be published. And you can always click the Save Work button here, circled in red, if you would like to save your work, exit the application, and come in later before you are ready to submit. Lastly, you will receive a message on whether or not you have any missing information. If you do have missing information, this banner that is blue right here will populate as red. If you have met all the requirements, you will get this blue banner here. Once you click submit, you will receive a confirmation that you've completed your intent to apply, and you will receive a follow-up email informing you of whether or not you may continue to step 3. You are going to be prompted. It's going to ask you, are you ready to submit? When you are finally ready to indeed submit, just remember that you cannot edit the intent to apply once you submit. So the save work buttons are good if you want to continue editing and come back. But once you get to this page and you press save and submit, you really cannot come back. This is your final submission for the intent to apply. Step 3 is the application, wherein you will be required to give information on your proposed project. Once you're in GoSmart, you will click back on that Grant Applications and Forms tab at the top of the page that I showed previously, and you will scroll back down to the Artist Grants FY25 section. Your intent to apply at this point will show as submitted. Once it's been approved, you will get a system notice that it has been approved. And when you log in, you'll also see this status line here will say intent to apply, either submitted or approved. You may click on the blue start button to begin your application, and you must have your intent to apply approved in order to start the actual application. And you can always refer to the side here with the dates and deadlines for the various steps of this grant. This is the first part of this application. You will be asked to select which tier of funding you are applying for and to provide detailed information on your project, beginning with describing your project. If you are applying for the $15,000 tier, you will be prompted to answer a question that asks if you are applying as part of a collective. If you are, you will then see some additional questions to fill out about the secondary designee of your collective. So this is what I referenced earlier. You will need to enter the secondary designee's name and address. Here are the remainder of questions about your secondary collective designee. Everything else following these questions will be exactly the same for all applicants. So these questions only populate if you are applying on behalf of a collective. You will have to upload your secondary designee's proof of address, as they also must reside within city limits, their city council district, and their artist registry profile. I also do want to note that if you are applying on behalf of a collective, we will be asking those who are awarded to take a year off each time we run a grant cycle for application. So if you have 5 people in your collective and 2 of them applied this year and you were awarded funding, those 2 people will not be allowed to apply the following year for funding. But the remainder of the collective, any of those other 3 members, would be welcome to apply. So you just cannot apply back to back. You will be asked to provide information on any collaborators you plan to work with. If you are an individual artist, you can have these collaborators. That would not count as a collective. That would be you as an individual working with other individual artists who are collaborators. And where you plan to display or perform your project. Here is the Save Work button once again, if you would like to save at any point and revisit the application. You will be then asked to provide your timeline and plans to market your project. And if you plan to display or perform your project in a city-owned venue or facility, you will need insurance. This insurance can be purchased for the dates of the exhibit or performance only through various event insurance providers listed here. So this is only going to apply if you are utilizing a city-owned venue for your premiere. Right before this budget section here, you will get a message that says, "We strongly believe that all artists should be paid for their work. As you fill out the next questions related to your project budget, please capture expenses for your artistic time and that of your artistic collaborators who may work on your project. Also, please capture any plans to generate revenue to assist with those expenses in the revenue section of the budget." So you can pay yourself for your time. You can add that as a line item in your budget. Fill out your proposed budget here. This doesn't have to be final, but please fill it out to the best of your ability and give yourself some room if you are unsure of exact costs. You can include a line item, as I stated before, for your own income. As you scroll down, you'll see the categories of artist fees, production expenses, venue rental, marketing, insurance, and more. You will once again save your work at the bottom of the page and move on to the next step of the application. So in my example here, I listed paint supplies for $1,000, photo printing for $1,000, and my collaborator stipends for $3,000. And I do want to note that while you are creating this line item budget to propose your project, if you are awarded funding, at the very end when we ask for your final report, we are not going to ask for a detailed list of expenditures or any type of receipts. We just want to make sure in this application phase that you are proposing a realistic budget for your project. Please provide any in-kind support in this section. In-kind is any non-cash donations such as goods, services, time, and expertise. For example, if the venue you're exhibiting or performing at donates the space or gives you a discount on space rental, you may show that here. So I have in my example, videography from my friend's business. He offered me $1,500. So that is my in-kind support. I do not have to budget for that $1,500 because I already know that my friend offered me videography. Ethics forms. You will be required to complete and upload a conflict of interest questionnaire and addendum to declare any conflicts of interest you may have. You'll see that on the second page provides descriptions to assist you on completing the form. Please complete both and save to your computer. Once you are ready to submit these forms, click the Upload File button and choose the files to be uploaded. The last section of the application is the assurances page. You must certify that you are authorized to submit an application, agree to adhere to the city's non-discrimination policy, refrain from discussing your application with any member of the evaluation panel or any member of the San Antonio Arts Commission or Arts Funding Committee until the item is taken to the San Antonio Arts Commission. Additionally, you may not contact any city official or their staff until the item is posted for City Council review. You must certify that you are the creator and owner of the artwork, and no other individual may claim copyright to the artwork, or that you have obtained rights to a component of the work that contains material copyrighted by someone else, and that all information submitted in the application is true and correct. So, for example, if you are a playwright and you are putting on a play, part of it is copyrighted material, but you obtained the copyright from someone else, you just have to make sure that you do have that copyright to use that material for these purposes. If you happen to miss answering any questions, you will receive a red banner that will notify you of this. Once you have met all requirements, you will receive this blue banner that I have shown here. You will not be able to proceed until you answer all required questions. Click on the final submission button and a message will show up asking if you're sure you're ready to submit. When you are, you will click OK. And once again, once you get to this page and you are ready to submit, just remember that you cannot edit this application once you submit. Once you click submit, you will receive a notice that your application was received. You will receive a notice from the department on or before June 15th informing you of your award status. And at this point, you are done with the whole process. Lastly, let's go over the timeline for this grant, and then we'll get into our Q&A portion. To recap, I wanted to show you a general overview timeline of where you are and the steps you'll take throughout this process. You are here where this yellow star is, attending this session. At this point, you either have or will be creating your artist registry profile, getting ready to submit the intent to apply. Perhaps you have already started your intent to apply, but you haven't submitted yet. After this, you will submit your actual application for this grant, which will be reviewed and scored by our panelists, and then funding recommendations will be made. Awarded grantees will be notified of further steps and their